Hello everybody and welcome to a DVD collection update video where I talk to you about the latest DVDs that I picked up about the last month or so. This is for the month of September, just so you guys know. And just so you guys know, this video might be split up into about at least 2, maybe even 3 different parts because I picked up a ton of stuff. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? These are in no particular order. These are all picked up for very reasonably cheap and very reasonably priced. First up is John Carter. This is, a very, didn't make as much money as Disney would have hoped. And, they were setting it up for a sequel, but it may and probably won't get one because, it didn't make much money, but you never know, right? Anyways, I thought John Carter was a great film. I really think that critics and the audience people, you were just a little too harsh on it because I really thought that it had something going, and this is actually, the story of John Carter is like, a century old, based off an old 1912 comic that came from a magazine, I believe, and then I believe the actual comic was released in like 1917. So anyways, John Carter was really cool. If you haven't seen this, you guys really ought to check it out. Yeah, like I said, it's 100 years in the making. Follow the journey of Edgar Rice Burroughs' story from its origins as a pulp novel to its arrival on screen. It also has a commentary with filmmakers. I believe it stars Taylor Kurtz from Battleship, and he's doing a few other things. But anyways, I thought it was really cool. So another one I picked up on DVD is the remake of a film called The Hitcher. I don't know too much about it besides, that the guy is a hitchhiker, I'm assuming. It's from the producers of the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have not seen this, like I said, so I don't know too much about it. I really can't comment too much. NBC says, The Hitcher is an action-packed blood and metal thriller that will keep you on the edge of your seat. It comes with a lot of special features, though. It comes with an alternating ending, 20 minutes of deleted scenes, making of, behind the scenes, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, can't say too much, but picked up The Hitcher. Another movie that I picked up is a sequel to a movie that I really like, and that is called The Ring 2. I like the first Ring more, but The Ring 2 is also a very well done horror film. It's a remake, as I'm sure you guys know, of The Ring is a remake. I'm not for sure if the Asian or Japanese, whichever one of those, I'm not sure if it had a sequel. Anyways, the same guy who directed Ringu, directed The Ring 2. So kind of, interesting. Anyways, I really thought this was a very effective horror film. It does have some scenes in there that I felt at least were pretty eerie, and it's just kind of one of those, I feel one of the better horror films within the past. I'd say, let's see, it came out in 2003, so I'd say it's one of the better horror films that came out, and in that 4 or 5 year period since, or that more like 6 or 7 year period since then. So really cool. There's some really well effective scenes. It's not one of those knockoff sequels that isn't very good. It's a well done sequel. So The Ring 2 is very cool. Another film that I picked up is Super 8. Super 8 I thought was very cool. It got critically, it did very well. It's from the writer and director J.J. Abrams, who also did Star Trek, and then it's from the producer, of course, of Steven Spielberg, and we all know him. So, anyways, I thought Super 8 was really cool. It's pretty much about these kids. It's that I don't want to say too much, but they witness a huge train crash, and there's some things that revolve around this train crash, and it's kind of cool. It has kind of a Spielberg vibe to it, and I really think that it really kind of captures the vibe of certain films. Like it kind of feels like E.T. at a few parts and stuff like that. At least I felt it did, and I really liked Super 8. I saw it. I've only seen it once. I saw it in theaters back when it first came out earlier this year. And I felt like Super 8 was probably one of the best films of this year. I really thought Super 8 was very cool. Not this year, but last year. My mistake. It came out last year. Anyways, one of the better films of last year. And Super 8 was very cool. Says the year's most thrilling movie and AOL calls it a movie, an instant classic. So anyways, Super 8's really cool, really captures, it's about these teenagers, and just really kind of just one of those really cool films that I think, is just a great film. Check it out if you guys haven't seen it. Another one is Underworld Evolution. It's the second Underworld film in the Underworld franchise. My favorite is Awakening. I have not seen this one, so I don't know really what to expect. I know what happens, of course, because Awakening kind of sums up everything in a matter of about 5 minutes or so. So I know what happens, but I have not seen it in its entirety. So can't say too much. Of course, Kate Beckinsale and a guy named Scott Speedman star in Underworld Evolution. I'll probably end up liking it when I do watch it. Another film I picked up is another recent film, came out earlier this year, is Wrath of the Titans. Now, if you guys know my opinion, I was not too fond of Clash of the Titans. I didn't like Clash at all. I didn't like how Medusa was done. I didn't like the Kraken at the end. Sorry, I'm going to spoil it. It's not meaning to. I'm assuming you guys have seen it. If not, skip over this. Anyways, I did like the opening to Clash of the Titans. I like when the statue falls and stuff like that. But as a whole, Clash I didn't think was very good. The scorpions and stuff. But now this, Wrath of the Titans, I think is a very well done film. I enjoyed Wrath of the Titans a lot. I really like the ending. There's a lot of the underworld sequences. If you guys want to know my full opinion on Wrath of the Titans, go ahead and just check out my Wrath of the Titans review that I did back earlier this year. I think in March or April when the movie came out. Anyways, comes with some deleted scenes, and that's about it. So, not much on here, but I paid about $7 for it at a used video store. Anyways, really, Wrath of the Titans I felt was a very fun film that many people should see, and I think most people would like. I know critically it didn't do very well at all, but I think critics are a little too harsh, and I think they just need to be a little easier on films, Just an opinion. Anyways, another film that I picked up is the 2-disc collector's edition of a film called The Fly 2. Now, I have seen the original Fly, just so you guys know. I watched it on an IFC I think it was about a year ago when I first saw it. And I thought it was a great film. I really liked the original Fly. I really liked the ending. The practical effects are phenomenal. Anyways, I've seen parts of this. I think I've seen roughly the first 15, 20, or 25 minutes of The Fly 2. And 2 discs, like I said. All kinds of special features, commentary, never before seen alternate ending. The disc 2 has a documentary, storyboard, original featurette, galleries, trailers, all kinds of good stuff on this disc, on these 2 discs. The guy from Jurassic Park, I forget his name, but he is in this. You can see his little picture there on the back. There. Anyways, I'm sure it'll be pretty cool. Not as good as the original, but I'm sure it'll be a decent film, right? Another film that I picked up is a German film, I believe, by the name of Antibodies. I just recently watched this, and this was really cool. Kind of puts it. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you a little bit about it. Not too much though. Think Silence of the Lambs. It kind of has it's about 2 hours, and for the first hour, it feels like the first hour is very Silence of the Lambs. It really has that feel. So if you want to sum up this film, just say it's a German version of Silence of the Lambs. Now, I wouldn't say it's a knockoff or anything like that because after the first hour, it verges into its own thing, and it kind of puts a twist on the serial killer genre. So they actually say that right here. An entertaining thriller that puts its own spin on the tired serial killer genre. And then New York Times says, thick as blood and cold as ice. Bloody Disgusting says, gruesome and twisted and jaw-dropping. There are some pretty kind of very twisted and kind of, I wouldn't say gross scenes, but sometimes when he talks, it's kind of gross. It's pretty much about this guy the serial killer who's committed about 14 I think it's like 13 or 14 different murders. And in the beginning, they capture him, and now he's put into an insane asylum, and this detective keeps going back and asking him questions, about a certain girl that was murdered named Lucia Fielder, and she was killed, and he wants to know, did you do it? Did you have anything to do with it? Do you know anything about the death of Lucia Fielder? So you can kind of already see the similarities between, if you've seen Silence of the Lambs, I'm sure you have. If you've seen it, it's pretty much a German version of Silence of the Lambs, at least the first hour. And like I said, after that, it verges to its own thing in the last hour. Some cool twists and turns in there. I think the opening scene in the movie is phenomenal. I really like the opening scene. It's kind of strange, but it's a really well done opening scene. So check out Antibodies if you have a chance. This, I believe, is one of the best films to come out, probably in this next one, one of the best films to come out in the past 10 years, and definitely when I make a top 10 list of movies, theatrical and straight-to-DVD movies, this will definitely be on that list, probably at least in the top 5. And that is Intruders, starring Clive Owen, the same guy who directed 28 Weeks Later. His name's Juan Carlos Fresnado. Excuse me. Anyways, Juan Carlos directed this, and it's kind of a psychological thriller horror. There's some, I wouldn't say it's like a straight up horror film, but there are some horror vibes to it. But it's kind of like a psychological thriller. But when you get down to it, it's very core. It is a horror film, in my opinion at least. Anyways, Intruders I felt was really cool. It's pretty much about this. It's about well, in fact, instead of me talking about it, I reviewed Intruders. So if you're curious about my opinion, it's spoiler free, just so you know. Go ahead and check out my Intruders review that I did a few months back. Anyways, Intruders, really cool. One of the best films to come out this year, I thought. Just a striking horror film. There's a few eerie scenes there, and the ending is phenomenal. There's some twists in there that caught me off guard. And anyways, Intruders is cool. Definitely worth a watch. This next one I thought was also one of the best films to come out this year. This will also probably be in my top 10 list of best films to come out in 2012. And that is a movie called The Divide. This is the unrated version. It stars all kinds of people. Michael Biehn, Milo Ventimiglia, whatever his last name is. Anyway, it's called The Divide. And the director of this is a guy by the name of Xavier Jims. And he actually is doing a short and the horror anthology coming out later on this year, on November 2nd, on video on demand, I believe, called The ABCs of Death. He's doing about a 4 or 5 minute short on one of those shorts. Anyways, The Divide is really cool. It was marketed as a horror film. It's not really. It has some horror vibes to it, but when you get down to it, it's more of a psychological movie about one of those post-apocalyptic movies, but very different than most. It's nothing like I Am Legend or anything like that. Anyways, it's pretty much about this big nuke goes off, and all these people blows up the entire place, and all these 9 or 10 people. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different people are trapped. They go down into this underground beneath this hotel bunker, and they lock themselves in. And they stay down there because they don't want to be affected by the radiation that is on outside. So they kind of stay down there, and it's kind of like a psychological breakdown of a person's mind when you get down to it. The Divide is very cool, very well done. I reviewed it, so if you're curious about my opinion, go ahead and go check out my review. Anyways, The Divide is very cool. Alien B, Brian Shirley, says, The Divide is hands down the best post-apocalyptic disaster movie I've ever seen. So, like that means anything. Anyways, sometimes you take these people's quotes with a grain of salt, but I would agree with that. But it's so much more than just a post-apocalyptic movie. So much more than that. Comes with a commentary by some of the actors and the director and a trailer. Definitely worth a watch if you have not seen. I got 3 more for you in the first part of this September DVD update, and out of those 3, I have Daybreakers, starring Ethan Hawke, William Dafoe, Isabel Lucas, and Sam Neill. Daybreakers is it's a vampire movie at its core, but it's a vampire movie with a huge twist, and it's one of the better vampire movies I've seen because they kind of tore this genre apart, with certain movies like Twilight and stuff. Who gives about Twilight, right? Anyways, Daybreakers I thought was a really interesting and really original concept for a vampire movie, and it's really cool. Ethan Hawke actually plays a vampire in the movie. I won't say too much about it because I do have a review on it, so if you're curious, go ahead and go watch my review. Great movie, really well done. And one of my, I think in my first intro I ever made for my movie review videos, I actually used a few scenes from Daybreakers. So anyways, go check it out if you have a chance. Next one is kind of an older film, but a lot of people like it, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, and that is a film called The Grudge. This was a really cool. A lot of people said this was a real good one. I haven't seen it, so I can't say too much. But it's a remake, of course, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know too much about it. But I'm sure. I mean, I know I know some scenes and stuff like that, but I haven't seen it in its entirety. Anyways, I'm sure it'll be a pretty cool one, but I haven't seen it, so I can't say too much. And the last video today for my part 1 of my September DVD collection update is Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford starring in Cowboys and Aliens. I don't know too much about it. Critically, once again, this movie did not do too well. It got kind of a lot of mixed reviews. So I'm the director of Iron Man. I haven't seen it, so I don't know too much about it. But I got it for like $2 or $3, so 3 for $8 at a local video store I go to. So I couldn't pass it up, right? Anyways, those are the movies that I picked up in the past few weeks or month or so. And stay tuned for part 2 of my September DVD collection update. Thanks again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the page below, and I'll see you guys later with another video by Centipede Geek.